Hello, I'm Jay Davenport, Vice President of Development and Alumni Relations at VCU. In this episode of VCU Voices, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Gail Hackett, VCU's Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. Provost Hackett will be retiring after June 30th, after 6 years with the university. During this time, she has made many mission-centered accomplishments, including the diversification of the Provost Office and initiatives to focus on the success of all of our students. This has resulted in significant gains in graduation rates, academic quality, and the national ranking that VCU has earned. Gail, thank you so much for your service to VCU, and thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
So Gail, can you give us a brief overview of your own individual academic career, and then how did you ultimately end up at VCU?
Glad to. Well, I started out as a faculty member with no ambition other than to be a faculty member. And it's interesting because there are many academic administrators who start out just that way. Some people do start out wanting to get into administration, but there are many of us like me who have no desire to get into administration, but get dragged in kicking and screaming, so to speak. I didn't kick and scream. I just got pulled in inadvertently, so to speak. So I got my degrees in psychology, in counseling psychology at Penn State. I got my first job at Ohio State. When I was at Ohio State, I had two parts of my job, and unfortunately, the college I was in reorganized, and they took the two parts of my job and put them in two different departments. So I ended up moving, and I went to a very, very good department of counseling psychology at University of California, Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara. Beautiful place, one of the most beautiful places in the world, certainly in the continental United States. A great place to work. And it was there I got a little bit of a taste of administration as a program coordinator. And then due to family issues and the fact that it was ridiculously expensive to live in Santa Barbara, I ended up going from there to Arizona State as a faculty member. Spent 20 years at Arizona State, and while I was there, I got talked into moving into a department chair position on an interim basis. And I said, only interim, 1 year only. And moving into that department chair position, I quickly found out that not only did I have a lot of the skills that enabled me to do a good job in that position, but actually a department chair could do a lot to help to help support and promote faculty, staff, and students. And so gradually I got talked into staying in that job for several years. And over time, I got involved in university level activities. I got brought downstairs, so to speak, to the college office as an associate dean. And eventually, got recruited to a vice provost position in the provost office at Arizona State. Spent 8 years there, and again, increasingly more and more involved in higher level activities, and expanded my portfolio. And even though my colleagues kept sort of kidding me, but they were really serious in many ways, about my going over to the dark side, which is what faculty refer to administration as. I did keep reassuring people that I was doing good work there as well. And eventually became very interested in moving into a provost position. So from there, I went into a provost position at University of Missouri, Kansas City. spent 7 years there, and then was recruited to come here to VCU. And I came here to VCU. A big part of what attracted me here at VCU was the fact that it not only was an R1 that was really on the rise, but also the mission of VCU was clearly student focused as well. So it was not only research focused, but very much focused on students, and the level of collegiality and the amount of really the fact that faculty were so dedicated to student success just really impressed me, and it impressed me in a way I just have not seen that level of student focus it's just very rare to find that at research universities. So I was just so impressed, and it really attracted me to VCU.
Absolutely. It's interesting. Our oldest son transferred to VCU during all of this pandemic time that we're going through. And his interaction with his professors has been absolutely amazing. And he marvels at it as well. So
good to hear.
Now, I have to ask, with your Penn State connection, you had access to the world famous creamery. So you'll have to tell us what your favorite ice cream flavor is.
I'm really boring. It's just chocolate. Anything from the Penn State Creamery is good. So doesn't matter what you order.
That's what I was just going to say. The chocolate at the Penn State Creamery is out of this world. So that's an excellent choice. Now, you have several accomplishments that you can claim while you've been provost at VCU, but of the things that you have had access to or you have directed, what are you most proud of during your time here?
Well, a couple of things. We've made a lot of advances in the student success area, especially increasing retention and graduation rates, although things have stalled a little bit during the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic has put caused problems everywhere, but we still, I think we still can look at much of the progress we've made in the student success area. When I first got here, VCU was really struggling with diversity hiring, especially having so many African American students in particular and underrepresented minority students. And yet, at the time I came, a little over 6 years ago, we were seeing a drop-off in African American faculty, which is a real problem. And we've turned that around, especially through the help of our IQ hiring initiative, as well as the good work of all of our faculty and in our schools. We've really done a great job there. We still need to continue that, but we've done a great job there. We've also made great progress in online. Of course, everything's online in the pandemic, but much of what we had to do originally in the pandemic via Zoom wasn't necessarily the real quality online courses that we really are trying to provide to our students. So we really are focusing on making sure that we are providing quality online. And we have done that even through the pandemic, but we are making progress in offering more programs online and more quality courses online so our students have options. Mm-hmm. And so those are some of the things. There are many more, but those are some of the top things.
And where do you find the inspiration in your work? One of the things that I have marveled at over my career in higher education, very few people outside of the academy can list what exactly a provost does. And yet it's probably the most important position that nobody can tell you what, the position does.
Yeah.
As the chief academic officer of an academic institution, it is really the crucial aspect, the crucial position for our entire enterprise. So where do you find the inspiration for your work?
Well, I should add that an awful lot of the pleasure of being a provost is working with the colleagues that I work with. Not only the cabinet level colleagues like you and the people that surround the president, but also the academic leaders that I get to hire. All the deans and the vice provosts and people at that level who are providing the leadership for the campus. And that's one of the most important things that a provost does, is make those hires and supervise and work with those people and support those people. So we can't do the job ourselves. We have to work through the deans and the department chairs in the schools and the vice provosts and their staff in order to provide the programs and to teach the students and to make sure all the students in the residence halls are provided for, and on and on and on. So it's kind of a supervision of supervision that we do, which is why nobody knows what a provost does, because technically I don't do anything. I work with other people who implement things, but hiring those people, making sure that you get the right people in the job, and then supporting them and seeing them do these wonderful things is really exciting.
Well, I think this is one of the things that's made you so successful. You're very, very humble in that you orchestrate a wonderful office. You do exceptionally wonderful work for our student body and the community at large. But it's that team building and putting the entire team forward and letting them do those great things, which I think is one of your hallmarks. And it's one of the things that we have all seen you work your mastery on, helping the entire campus community. So
well, thank you.
Now, I've heard a few of stories of what you've accomplished over the last nearly 7 years now, but what is your favorite story since you've been here at VCU? What is the memory that you're going to be most proud of or cherish the most when you finally retire?
I thought about this, and I really don't have one memory because there's so many. There's just so many things that have occurred, and there's so many things to point to. I guess I'd almost rather talk about some of the kinds of things that we do that make a difference. And for example, along the lines of what I was just talking about, one of the things that we have done out of my office is we've established a professional development program for chairs. And one of the things we didn't have before I got here is we had an orientation for new chairs, but we didn't really have a professional development program for department chairs. And department chairs are the mid-level managers of the university. That's where most of the action happens. And what universities often do is pick smart people, put them in that job, and expect that they know what to do. And frankly, just because you're smart doesn't mean you know what to do in a leadership position. And so over time, it's been very clear, nationally, it's been very clear that universities need to provide leadership training and development and professional development to those chairs and to deans, but especially to chairs, to help them in their role in supporting faculty. So we now have that professional development for chairs program in place to provide much more support and guidance for chairs in the job that they do. So there's things like that. Another thing, it's not a story per se, but it's one of the things that I didn't really expect to enjoy as much as I've enjoyed in coming here is our our work with VCU Arts in Qatar. You know, we don't just have a branch campus in Qatar. We have a group of faculty and staff who are involved in nation building in Qatar. I mean, we are part of Education City in Qatar, and Qatar isn't just an Arab nation, a rich Arab nation that's oil rich, and they're fine. I mean, this is a country where the students who we teach, their grandparents lived in tents in the desert. I mean, this is a total transformation of their country. And because we teach the arts, we teach primarily female students. Mm-hmm. And female students in Arab countries are still treated fairly traditionally. And so our School of the Arts is actually educating women in an Arab country where women generally have not been educated and have not been encouraged to think beyond the home and think beyond their traditional roles. I mean, think Saudi Arabia. Well, Qatar's very different. In fact, Saudi Arabia doesn't like Qatar. They're still got a blockade going on with Qatar. So when we go there, it's really interesting, and our students go there and visit and do exchanges with Qatari students, and our Qatari students come here and have Qatar Day, and so those opportunities for international exchanges and dialogue are, I think, a really important part of what we're doing internationally.
Right.
And it's been a really interesting experience.
I've enjoyed my time meeting our Qatari students too. It's simply amazing. Your point is so well put. The dramatic change in families in such a short period of time, and to think the entire country is only 40 years old. I mean, It's just truly a revolutionary change for the students and that entire society. So,
yeah.
Now, if you were to call Mike Rao tomorrow and tell him you've changed your mind, and you were to stay with us for another 2 or 3 years, what's left on the plate? What did you not accomplish that you thought, I'd really like to get this one last thing done? I just don't have the time yet.
Well, I don't think it's that there's something that we didn't get to, but I think it's that we didn't finish. And that is, we still have so much more to do in the student success area. Mm-hmm. Because we have students that come to us that are perfectly capable of succeeding at the university and getting a degree. But we have students that we could match up to students anywhere, in any of the Ivy Leagues or any of the elite publics. I mean, we have students that match up anywhere. But we also, because we bring in such a diverse student body, we also, and we have so many first-gen students, and we have so many underrepresented minorities who have come from schools that did not do them justice. And we have so many, low-income students of various backgrounds. We have a lot of students who need more, who are perfectly capable of succeeding, but generally need more support than a student going to, say, Yale or UVA or another more elite school. Mm-hmm. And so we need to figure out what our students need and provide support for those students. And we have a mantra in the student success area, which is, you've heard me say this, right? Students don't do optional. Now, some of our students, if you tell them you really need to go get some tutoring, or you need to do this, or you need to do that, they'll go do it. But most of our students, especially first-gen students, but many of our students don't seek out the help that they need for one reason or another,
Right.
even if it's there. And that's what we mean by students don't do optional. And so what the mantra is if we know from the research that a certain path of action is going to be very helpful to a student, we should require it.
Right.
And so we're right in the middle of requiring certain things for students. So I'll give you an example. There's a support system that lots and lots of universities use. It's called supplemental instruction. And it's a peer-led study approach where a student who's done well, if you take a biology course, biology X, and you take a student who's gotten a high A in that course, and you hire them back and you give them some coaching on how to coach other students on how to study for that course. Because you study differently for biology than you study for English, than you study for math.
Right.
Okay, so you take a student who's done well in the course, and you give them some guidance on how to run study sessions, and then you put them in charge of small groups of students for studying for that course. Now, it's not tutoring. It is study strategies for the particular course that, whatever it is, chemistry, biology, whatever. And they get supervision and they get guidance, and then they work with their peers. Okay, so here's what I did, and here's what other students that succeed in this course did, and here's what to try, and what did you do here, and what did you do there, and it's basically strategy sessions on how to do well in those courses. So we pay the students who are the SI leaders, and then we schedule those sessions along with the regular class sessions. But we have to schedule everything, and what we're going to start doing is, for courses that we know are really difficult and lots of students drop out of, we're going to start requiring students to enter supplemental instruction. And then when they start getting their grades, if they're doing fine, they can opt out. But if they're not doing fine, they stay in supplemental instruction until they succeed.
I love it.
Right. So, but that requires a lot of resources to do that in big courses, but students don't do optional, so we require it. But we know there's a big literature that establishes that supplemental instruction is very, very effective if you can get students to sit in it. So that's an example of one of a whole series of retention strategies that we have been using, but we need to do more, and we need to do more of these. So that's the kind of thing that I would continue on and do more of and more of, to get more and more and more students successful and graduating.
Absolutely. I love that example. That's the perfect perfect example of building upon the great programs that have been started under your leadership. So,
and the other thing is, we need a whole lot more need-based aid, because we have lots of low-income students, and they graduate with a lot of debt. And the reason they graduate with more debt than students from other universities is because they have to take out loans because they're low income. Right. So we need to get them more and more need-based aid, so that they can have grant aid instead of having to take out loans.
Well said. Well said. And it's one of the things that we've been very fortunate at VCU. Our alumni and the broader community definitely see that as priorities. But you're absolutely right. We could double the amount and still need more. So
right.
So what's next in the playbook for you? You know, one of the things I've often said, which is amazing about the boomer generation, is it is the most educated generation in human history that is now preparing for retirement. Most aren't actually thinking of retiring and withdrawing. They're thinking of retiring and then doing what's next. So for you, what is next?
Well, you're absolutely right about that, in that my scholarship has been in career development, and that's exactly what we would say. But for me, I've already purchased a retirement condo near the beach in New Jersey. And the reason I purchased it there is my work led me to have to move further and further away from my home, which was in the Philadelphia area.
Okay.
So I followed the jobs, and I went all the way to the West Coast, and then I came all the way back. But my son and my granddaughter are in the Philadelphia area. So I'll be moving close to them and spending much more time with them, especially my granddaughter, who's a pistol, total pistol. So she's 4 now. And I've been going up to Philadelphia to spend time with her, and I plan to spend lots more time. And I figure if I'm near the beach, then they'll come to visit me, and that'll be some incentive for them to visit me a lot.
So I shouldn't have asked you earlier about your favorite ice cream. I should have asked you Pat's or Geno's.
Yes, actually. In Philadelphia, we used to go to a place called Sam's. So it's not even those two. There's too many cheesesteak places in Philadelphia.
Too many great cheesesteak places.
That's
exactly.
right. Exactly. That's right.
So
That's
I love
right.
to wrap
and places for hoagies.
And subs for everybody else outside of the Philadelphia area.
Right. And tasty cakes.
So I love to wrap this up by asking individuals, tell us something about yourself that we might not know about. So I'd love for you to share something about yourself that might surprise the audience when they're watching this.
The last couple of years, I've taken up pickleball, which I used to play tennis, but I'm finding that pickleball is something that I think I could play much more easily well into old age. And I've also dragged Carol Gray and Meredith Weiss into pickleball lessons last year before the pandemic. So I've got them playing too.
You've created a league.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah.
Well, that is, Gail, it's been such a pleasure to work with you at VCU. You have definitely left an indelible mark during your time as provost, and we are definitely a better institution because of your leadership and what you've brought to the institution. I just want to thank you for your time today and wish you all the best in future endeavors.
Thank you very much, Jay. It's been a real pleasure working with you.